appreciate raw vlogs. We appreciate raw vlogs. Good morning, crew. It is Friday, which means it is raw vlogs with MTB ALAN channel. Raw vlogs are recorded live in front of a steering wheel on my way to getting my Friday morning coffee delivered straight from the camera to you, raw and unedited. I don't know which raw vlog we are on. If you are unfamiliar with the channel, I'm Alan. This is the MTB ALAN channel. I normally put out edited content on Mondays at 5 p.m. and this is the Friday morning update, raw vlog, and discussion show and stuff. Yeah, so we have a couple of segments. We've got channel news, we've got point of curiosity, point of gratitude, and then our subject matter. Our subject matter today is, I haven't really fully formed it, but it's gonna be around bad ways of getting your buddy into riding, bad advice, that sort of thing. All right, channel news. You may notice if you watched other raw vlogs that our camera has been updated. I'm hoping that I can make this process as smooth as possible. Normally I use my phone to record this, so I can just like go straight from the phone to YouTube. I'll still have to do a little bit of work with the GoPro to get the, well, anyway, details aside, I'm hoping this will make our raw vlogs a little bit better. Also, I can't see the angle, so hopefully this is not a sucky angle. Other bit of channel news, I don't know if you've noticed, but the moneymaker, the face of spades, as, who coined it that? I forgot who it was, but the hair on the face is a bit cleaned up. Because of the wrist being messed up, I really couldn't manage this very well, so it just got all over the place. So while the wrist is still coming along, I can move it a bit more now. I can move it enough to actually trim my beard, so that's the wrist update. Another piece of channel news, I will be at the Southridge USA DH race this Sunday. I know I said that last week, but thanks Wade for correcting me, letting me know that it was this week. So I didn't spend my day out there yesterday going, where is everybody? Yeah, I don't really know what video's coming out this Monday. I've got a couple of things in the works, but yeah, so that's the channel news. My point of curiosity today, I really don't have one, other than I realized recently that there is a like kind of SoCal legend mountain biker known as Monk Dawg that I didn't know about, but I think I heard about at some point. But I realized that at Greer Ranch there's a trail called Monk Dawg, and at the entry to Monk Dawg there's a portrait done in metal, which is kind of cool. So I'm assuming that's Monk Dawg. If any of you crew know who Monk Dawg is or know anything about it, would love to hear about it in the comments. Please update me on that. Point of gratitude, speaking of classic Southern California trails like Greer Ranch, I'm really grateful that I live in Southern California. A couple of reasons are, well, one, we don't really have an off season, so you know, I probably won't be on the bike until maybe December. And in a lot of places there's not a lot of mountain biking going on in December, January, February, unless you're on a fat bike. So Southern California, these are some of the best months to ride, actually, because it's cooler, the trails are often a little bit wetter. I also dig being in Southern California because there's so many trails around me. I'm kind of centrally located in Southern California, so there's trails within an hour in any direction I go, which is pretty rad. It means there's not a lot of trails like right next to me, but that's okay. It's funny because a couple of years ago, Kelly and I had been discussing where we wanted to move to, especially after we started mountain biking, and we kept saying, like, we want to find a place that's got like all kinds of different trails and whatnot, but also has a place where we can get good, you know, keep our careers going well. And every place we looked pretty rad, you know, but if you also do the kind of work that we do, like I'm a designer, Kelly's a teacher, you're probably going to be in an area that's still going to be an hour or 45 minutes away from any trails. And then we realized that we're kind of already there. So yeah, I really dig that. Also, the terrain in Southern California, from what I understand, can really make you a good rider and prep you to ride most other places. I think the only thing we really don't have here that, or the only skill set that you can't really develop here, is riding wet routes. But yeah, like I think, like, you know, Southern California can breed some really good riders. Yeah, so I'm stoked to be in Southern California. Yeah, so let's talk about bad advice that's given to new riders. You've got your new buddy that's coming in to ride with you. They're interested in mountain biking, and like, what are the like things that I've seen that just make me scratch my head and go like, why would you do that? So yeah, starting off, one is like just 100% lack of any kind of coaching. Just throwing them on a bike, throwing them on a trail. I don't know how many times I've seen somebody going down a trail with their pedals at 12 and 6 o'clock, and I'm just thinking like, is this angle like really terrible? And I'm just thinking that they're gonna pedal strike. That's like the worst way to do it. Also, they're usually sitting. And I'm like, why would you let your friend go down the trail like that? And I often see that a lot with the guy who's trying to get his lady into mountain biking, or maybe he's not trying to get his lady into mountain biking. That's a sure way to make the experience not good. So yeah, just that basic little bit of coaching in the parking lot. I've watched Kelly do it with people in the parking lot that she doesn't even know, or, you know, at the head of the trail. But, you know, just getting them to stand up on the pedals, having the pedals level, knowing how to equally weight between the hands and the feet, and heels down, all those kind of things. Head up, heels down, looking down the trail. Yeah, so complete lack of coaching. It's terrible. Don't do that to your friends. Another thing is, like, if the friend is on a full suspension bike, just telling them that, like, just trust your bike will handle it. And, you know, this is talking to somebody who has not a lot of skills. You know, they've been riding a very short time, or it's one of their first times on the trail, or they're just new. And then I've definitely seen people tell their friend, like, yeah, just go down that go through that rock garden and just go, like, just send it, because your bike has, you know, 140 mil travel, and it'll handle it. You'll be fine. Yeah, that's a really good way to get your friends hurt. I don't know why you would say that. Maybe, like, we can kind of forget all the things that have become just natural to us after we've been riding a few years. And, you know, that's understandable. That's cool that your skills become just natural and you can do them unconsciously. But do remember that, like, you did have to learn those skills. Other bad stuff that I've seen is, like, taking somebody up, like, just on their first couple of rides, just taking them up just some nasty fire road climb, where you're just exposed to the sun the whole time, and then turning them around and sending them down some, like, gnarly, steep, rocky terrain. Like, you know, granted, like, if you're gonna be like a hardcore mountain biker, you will from the get-go probably understand that and get into that. But I think there's still a lot of people who could easily get hurt, you know, minorly injured enough to, like, make it so it's hard for them to get back on the bike. Yeah, so that, I know. So I was, you know, I was a coach. I was a CrossFit coach for years, and one thing that I often, you know, tried to coach my athletes to do was, you know, train thinking about, you know, future training. You want to train today to be able to train tomorrow, or, you know, take your rest days. So I think, you know, ride and be able to ride tomorrow, and make sure that your friend can get back on the bike. Other bad stuff that I've seen people do to their like friend trying out mountain biking is just throwing them on whatever bike you can dig up in the garage. I mean, granted, this doesn't mean you need to like, you know, get that friend like a freaking crazy awesome bike, but you know, I've seen people show up with a bike with like brakes that don't work, or like gears that aren't changing, and like the stuff hasn't been serviced in forever, and who knows if there's even air in the shock. I find those, I don't know, why would you do that to your buddy? I know it sometimes, like, you can't always rent a bike because you're not necessarily going to a bike park, but yeah, I don't really have a good solution for that, because I know the reality that like you might not have a full-on quiver. But yeah, speaking of bike parks, while bike parks do offer the, you know, lift access to get you up to the top of the mountain really easily and gives you access to bikes that you can demo, they're also not necessarily the best place to start somebody else riding, because there's, you know, going to be so many rippers around. Everybody looks kind of intimidating in their full face helmets and neck braces and, you know, gnarly bikes, and it can be intimidating and add a lot of nerves to a person's ride. So, you know, taking them to the right environment, I think, is important to give them a good initial experiences. I mean, in terms of like, and honestly, the conversation that we had last week about, you know, expensive mountain bikes and whatnot really got us talking a little bit more about buying your first bike. And I was going to do a thing on buying your first bike, but I figure if you're watching this, you probably already have had your first bike. But getting that friend into mountain biking, what does their first bike need to look like, or what's a good first bike? And I was thinking about this. You know, it's really easy to end up at a mountain bike shop and walk out with basically an XC bike. I feel like, for whatever reason, a lot of bike shops that aren't, okay, first off, there's not a lot of mountain bike shops. There's a lot of bike shops that happen to sell mountain bikes. And it seems like they will often send you out the door with your first mountain bike being basically an XC bike. And I can kind of understand the logic around that, but I feel like there's a good number of affordable hardtails that have aggressive geometry, and that may be a little bit harder to climb, but I feel like the industry, or just general bike philosophy these days, unless you're talking about really just, you know, competitive level XC riding, it seems like these days bikes come at a weight cost in order to make them more fun on the downhills. They're more capable on descending while giving you a little bit of the pedal tax, and I personally think that's cool. So yeah, getting your friend onto a bike if they're buying their first bike, getting them onto something that, you know, helping them out, maybe going to the bike shop with them and like coaching them away from that just, you know, standard XC bike that a lot of bike shops are going to want to sell them. Yeah, I hope this has been helpful about, you know, getting that buddy into riding and not giving people bad advice. Yeah, so this is raw vlog, whatever, 20 something. Hope you dug it. If you did, hit that like button. Get more videos from the MTB ALAN channel by joining the crew and hitting that subscribe button. Hopefully I'll see you out on Sunday. Other than that, I'll see you back on the trails whenever I get out there. Boom.